JKB back with another episode. Today on the show, I'm reviewing Hellpoint for the Nintendo Switch. Thank you to tinyBuild for sending over the review copy. Hellpoint was a Kickstarter campaign that was asking for $50,000 and managed to get funded within 2 years at $64,000. The game is a Souls-like action role-playing game where you take the role of a nameless humanoid droid, I guess, who awakens on a space station. You're on a journey to discover what happened to the space station and figure out why is the space station beside this giant black hole. The main focus is, of course, combat and exploration of this giant space station. You have light and strong attacks and a dodge button. Games like this are extremely hard to review on the show because, well, it's not that great. And I don't like sitting here talking shit to developers that clearly have passion for game design, but I have to be honest with the audience and say that this misses the mark. While I can appreciate a lot of the small details in the game, the overall design is really just a Souls-like clone. There's not too much different about it. You're going to find the usual mechanics from a Souls-like game within this game. The only difference is it's on a giant space station. And I think the biggest problem for this Nintendo Switch version is that it's probably the worst version of the game to get. Visually speaking, it is definitely not the best game to look at on the Switch. You've got low-res textures inside the UI, which is just absurd. I mean, we're talking PlayStation 2 levels of visuals that I just can't overlook. Again, this is a Kickstarter project, and I'm not expecting AAA design, but I mean, come on, these are bad. The other aspect of the game that is very important is, like I said, the combat. And while the combat is bare bones basic, it is at times frustrating when you have enemies who seem to fall through the floor or randomly hit you from behind when it's impossible. Like literally, it's a physical impossibility because there's something in between your character and the enemy, but it's not registered. The hit detection on these enemies is way off, and at times, I think part of the challenge of a Souls-like game like this is actually trying to play it. That's part of the challenge. If you're able to keep playing this and have a great time, then you should get some bonus points, because wow. Now, while saying all of that, there is a bare-bones Soul-like game within this, so if you're a fan of that franchise and that type of game, you are going to get something out of this. There's a huge variety of enemy types within this game. Level design is not the worst. However, because of the simple design of the world itself and the low-res textures, things don't look too different within the first couple of hours, and that's probably the most trying time to keep playing this game. I found myself just not wanting to do it. And I want to point out I'm a huge fan of the Souls-like games. The genre is one of my favorites, so getting a game like this on the Switch isn't necessarily a really bad thing. It's just one of those mediocre games that comes along and tries to be something it just can't live up to. I am not 100% sure about this, but lots of these independent games use assets from websites where you can simply pay a fee to download a 3D model. So if you need a car or a chair, you just simply go to a website, pay a small fee, and now you own the rights to put that in your game. Unfortunately, this game seems to use a lot of that. Now, I'm not saying that the whole game uses a ton of it, but the enemy design is probably the most unique aspect of this game. Everything else just looks like assets that they paid for. Now, on the other side of the coin, I will say that the enemy design is probably the best aspect of this game. While it's hard to say that it is really a breathtaking visual that you have to see, I will say that based on the rest of the game, it does stand out, and the person who, or the people, I should say, who designed the creatures in this game should give themselves a round of applause, and that's probably the best aspect of this game, other than the combat, which again is bare bones Souls-like. Overall, I'm going to give Hellpoint for the Nintendo Switch a 6 out of 10. I really do appreciate what they tried to do here, but it feels like it's missing something. A lot of the game is very hard to get through based on the fact that it is very rough around the edges, and graphically, I had to turn the brightness up on my Switch just to be able to see down certain hallways on the space station because the lighting environment just wasn't good. Is this a game I would recommend for everyone? No, absolutely not. I don't think I would recommend it to many people. You'd have to be super in love with the Souls-like games to even get a little bit of joy out of this. At times, it really does connect with you and you kind of get a bit of a rush because you take down an enemy and you feel great about it. But then the next minute, your character is falling through a floor or randomly getting hit from behind by enemies you just can't see on screen. So while there are issues with the game, I just overall cannot recommend it to many people out there, if any. And let me say, I definitely don't enjoy coming into a review and talking so negatively about it. I really was hoping for more, and unfortunately, we did not get that here. So if you want to know more about the game, you can comment below, and if you like my reviews, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.